this video, we will log in using access and refresh tokens. If we inspect the page and we refresh, we will see that the user will fail the first time, and then we will call the refresh endpoint, and then the user will be successfully retrieved. Before we build the app, I would like to remind you that this video can be combined with other videos. So if you want to use Angular with any of these backend frameworks and more, because I don't know how many frameworks I will add, I provided some links in the description of this video. Now let's build the app. We will start with a pre-built Angular app that contains 3 components. The main app component.html will have the router outlet and the header on top, which looks like this. The 3 components will be the home component, the login, and the register. So we will have only the HTML forms in these components because we haven't added anything on the component.ts pages, and those will be added also in the routes. There are also simple routes for each component. And of course, I added the bootstrap and some styles. And in the end, it will look like this. This is the home component, this is the login, and this is the register. Let's start by registering a user. Before we register a user, make sure also to run the backend. Pick a backend in the description of this video. Here, I will start by going to the app module, and here I will import 2 modules. One is HTTP client module to send HTTP requests, and the other one is reactive forms module. So this will help us to submit the form. Let's go to the register component.ts, and here we will add the form variable as a form group. Don't forget to import a form group from Angular Forms. Sometimes this may cause a problem here, and I suggest adding an exclamation point for the form here if you have problems that you need to initialize it. And here I will create the form, but to create the form we need to inject here another service, which is the form builder. As a form builder, don't forget to import this also, and the form will be equal to this form builder group, and inside we need all the inputs that we have in our register here. So we have 3 inputs: the name, the email, and the password. So here we'll set the name, by default will be empty, email the same, and the password, it is the same. And that should be it. Now let's go to the register component.html. First we need to set the form group to the form that we created, and second, for each input now we need to add the form control name, and the form control name will be the value that we added here. So this is name. I'll copy this, paste it here. This is email, and this is password. So when we create a form group, we need also to map the inputs via the form control name. And now what is left is to submit this form. So let's add the function here, submit. And when we submit the form here, we will submit it like this via ng-submit or just submit, and we will call the submit function. So we submitted the form, and now we will use the HTTP client, so private HTTP client here, to send a request to the backend with this information. And we will send it like this. So this HTTP post to HTTP localhost port 8000/API/register is the endpoint, and the information that we want to send are these values here. And to get these values as we want, we call this form getRowValue. and that should be it. In the end, we will subscribe and we will get a response. What do we want to do with the response? We want to redirect to our login page. So I will inject here private router from Angular router, and when we successfully complete the form, we will navigate to the login page, and that should be it. So this is the register form. Now let's register our user. Email will be 88.com and the password is A, and we successfully redirected to the login page, which means that we successfully registered. Now let's use that user to login. So let's go for the login form first. I'll copy the code from the register component and I'll paste it here directly because it will be almost the same. We need the form group and a form, which we add later. Here I will rename this to sign in. We don't need the name, we need just an email and a password, and that's it for this login component.html. Now we need the TypeScript part, so I'll copy also the code from here because it will be almost the same as well. So we created a form, we added the values here, which we don't need the name. We just need an email and a password, and we will post to API/login. And that should be it. In the end, we will navigate to the main page. But the login will be a little bit different because we will get from that an access and a refresh token. To get the refresh token, we need to add an option here, which is with credentials to true, because we will get that value from the cookies, and to get the cookies we need to allow getting the credentials. So we got the refresh token here, and the access token we will get it from the response. So response as any, I will cast it here, and we have to store it somewhere. So I will store it in an interceptor because we need it to use it later. So let me create now in a new tab ng generate interceptor. In the interceptors folder / I'll call it auth. So we created the auth interceptor and the test file, which we will remove it. And this is the interceptor. So what are interceptors? Now when we log in, we will get an access token, and we want to use that access token on every request header. And for that, we need to add interceptors because they will stand between requests. And here we can add the access token header in every request. So let's do it. First, I'll create here a variable. I'll make it static, and I'll call it the access token. By default, I will initialize it as empty. So why static? I made it static because we will have only one access token, and we don't need to initialize the class in order to set this variable. So we can set that access token directly like this. Auth interceptor access token is equal to response.token. And that's it. So the auth interceptor, we added the access token as a variable, and we will use it now in every request. How do we use it in every request? So we need to set this access token to the request header, and to do that we have to clone the request. I will create another variable, request, so like this is equal to request.clone. So we need to clone it because the request variable is immutable, and we cannot change the header there unless we create another variable with a different header. So we can set the headers, authorization, and the value will be like this: bearer and a space, and in this variable here we will add the access token, and the way that we add the static variable is directly via the class. So like this. I misspelled the authorization, we need an I here, and we will use this request variable now here. But we completed the auth interceptor, but we didn't add it to our app module. So we can add the interceptor here like this. We need to add it in the providers as an object where the first value is provide, and that is HTTP interceptors. Don't forget to import it here. The second value is use class, which is our class auth interceptor. Don't forget to import this as well. And the last one is multi. I will set this to true. And that should be it. We added the interceptor. And now how do we use it? So let's go to the home component.html, and here we will get the authenticated user. So we will start by adding here private HTTP client, and we will call this HTTP get request to HTTP localhost port 8000/API/user, and if the response is successful, like this, we will change the message. So I will create a variable message here. I will initialize it as empty, and I will display it here, message, like this. And when we get the user, we will change the value like this. This message is equal to, I'll cast this as any, and this will be equal to hi response name. And let's see how this works now. We are at the sign-in page now, and if I use the user that we just registered, before we submit, let's inspect and go to application here, cookies. Let's see for the cookies. So when we submit now, we'll generate a refresh token. So we stored that successfully with this with credentials to true. We got the authenticated user, because now when we send a request to the user, the headers will have this bearer token, which we send it via the interceptor. So this is working as it should as well. But if we refresh, we will see that we are not getting the authenticated user, because the token will be reset to empty. And in this case, we have to use the refresh cookie, because we still got it here, to generate a new access token. So let's do that. For the refresh token, we have to handle that request when we have an error. So I will add here a pipe. So after we make the next request, I will add the pipe here, and we will catch the errors. So don't forget to import catch error from rx.js. And here we will have an error. I may cast this as error as HTTP error response. And in the end, if we don't do anything, we need to return throw error like this. So let's import throw error here, and now we didn't do anything. So we catch an error and we throw that error. Nothing will happen if I refresh the page now. But now we can catch the error where the user is unauthorized by adding here an if condition. If the error that status it is equal to 401. This means that the user is unauthorized, and we have to send a request to the refresh token and to see if that works. So for that, we need to get here private HTTP as an HTTP client, and we need to return here this HTTP. We need to send a post request to HTTP localhost port 8000/API/refresh. We don't need to send any data, but we need the with credentials to true because we need to send the refresh token cookie. In the end, we need to add a pipe here as well. And inside we need a switch map. So don't forget to import this also. And this switch map will have our response here as any. And what do we want to do here? First, this will be similar to this login component here. So we need to set the access token in case it is successful. So let's go back. We will set again the access token. So we set the access token, and now we need to redo the previous request. So this next handle request, we did it previously, it failed, we send a request to the refresh token, and now we need to do it again. So we have to return here now, not this, so this request.handle. But we will not handle it from this variable here because this has a previous token. We need the new token, and for that I'll clone it again and I'll put it here directly. So we need to use another request in the headers, and that should be it. So let's see it on the browser, and we get the authenticated user now. Even if we refresh, we will still get it because it will fail the first time. We will call the refresh endpoint, we will get a new token, and we will call the same request again. So this is how we use the refresh interceptor. Still, we need a small change here, and we will see this change once we add the logout functionality, which we will add it in the home component. So here I will add an anchor link. Actually, I will paste it. So this will be just a normal button, logout here. And let's add the logout function for this. So I will add the function logout. And when we click this button, we will call the logout function. So in that function, we have a HTTP client ready. So we will send an HTTP request, a post request to HTTP localhost port 8000/API/logout. Logout. We need to send an empty body, and we need with credentials to true because we need to send the refresh token so we can remove it. In the end, we will subscribe, and we will redirect to the we will use router now. Private router, we will navigate. So this router navigate to the login page. The same we will do when we call this user. In case the user is not retrieved, we want to redirect to login. For that, I will cut this code here. I'll put an object here, and that is the next case. So I didn't change anything now, just handled the success case, and now I want to handle the error case, which is another function, but in the error case now I want to redirect to the login page, and that's it. So when we log out now, we will see another error. I'll go here, let's click logout. We will get redirected to the login page, which is okay. But if we go to the login, we'll see that we are calling refresh a lot, and I will stop it now. So because this is an infinite loop. Why is this happening? This happens because I will start it again here, ngserve. Let's go to the auth interceptor. we get the error 401 and we call the refresh endpoint. But when we log out, we don't have the cookie. So when we call the refresh endpoint, we'll get 401 again, and we will go here and we will have an infinite loop here where we will have the same status and we will request the same endpoint. To prevent that, we need to call the refresh endpoint only once. For that, I'll create a variable here, refresh is equal to false, and if the status is 401 and we have not refreshed, then we will call our refresh endpoint. We will set this refresh is equal to true. And if this fails, we will go here, but we will not do it again because the refresh is set to true. We will go here where we have to set this refresh to false again. And that should be it. So we solved also the other problem now, where we call the user multiple times and now we call it only once. If we go there, we can see we're calling user, we are calling refresh, and we redirect the next time. So we have to log in again to get the authenticated user. And one last thing, when we log out, because we didn't put it here, when we log out, we'll set the auth interceptor access token is empty now, because the first time it seems that we were logged in again. So when we log out now and go back, we cannot go back. So that's it. This is how we log in using access and refresh tokens in Angular. Also, if you want a more complicated course, I provided a link for the Ultimate Authentication course with Node.js and Angular, but you can pick a different programming language in the backend, it doesn't matter. Here you can learn how to log in using two-factor authentication and to social login using your Google account, and many more concepts. If you are interested, you can buy this course, or you can pick a bundle. So you can pick the Node.js bundle and you will get that course along with all my Node.js courses, just for $8 a month if you are not in Europe. If you are in Europe, is $9.52 per month. It is your choice, and thank you for watching this video.